Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video. Today I had an interesting idea. I wanted to go over some of my newbiest money making methods that I used to actually do for money back in RS2. Around 2005 to 2006 is when I played the most RuneScape, and I'll tell you I had some extremely newbie money making methods. We're gonna go ahead and try them again today. Obviously prices have changed, but I really want to see what the hell I was doing because earning myself a full rune took months. Or at least it seemed like that way in my head. It was a huge achievement when I finally earned full runite armor and a rune scimitar, but it took me forever. So I'm gonna go ahead and try out those methods and see, well, why it took so long. Anyway guys, hope you enjoy and let's get started. Now back in RS2, this was actually one of my favorite banks along with a lot of other people's, and that was the East Varrock bank. And of course there was one major reason for that, and that was mining rune essence, which is something I did for countless hours. Probably not as many as I think, but I did this forever, and I'm not sure if I was doing it for mining experience or for money. I am imagine money, hopefully. But yeah, you just come down here to Aubrey and teleport to the rune essence site. Nobody here anymore because it is complete shit. There's no reason to mine rune essence anymore. For one, you have the grand exchange, and two, quicker to get from Nightmare Zone or other shops. But like I said, I spent hours here mining rune essence and selling it to higher level players or medium level players or anyone higher level than me, which is pretty much everyone. I think the thing that I liked about it the most is that it mined very quickly, so you could very instantly get a reward from it, where mining stuff like mithril and adamant took forever. And this is kind of just what everyone was doing at the time for money, so I thought it was good. Clearly it was not. Let's see what the inventory of pure essence is worth now. 56 GP. Pure essence is actually worth 2 GP each. That is insanely low. I think when I was doing it, it was worth at least 15 or 20 each. It did have some value. It was still a bad money making method, but not that bad. So when I was in grade 5, I remember learning about one of the best drops that you could get in free-to-play or in RuneScape at the time, and that was the Rune Med Helm drop. It seemed so prestigious, super rare, and the only way to get it was from a lesser demon. So I spent a lot of time killing lesser demons in the Karamja volcano, just in the hopes that I would get the Rune Med Helm drop, which back then I still think was only worth around 15k or something like that. For a long time, the lesser demon was the highest level free-to-play monster, so I guess that just got around, and the fact that it had a runite item drop made it so legendary and sought after that I went ahead and killed it with my best weapon possible. Of course, being the rune battle axe, which was the coolest of the weapons, so that was the one I got. So I would spend hours killing lesser demons, and after a month I finally did get the Rune Med Helm drop, and I was able to sell it for I think 20k, which was the largest drop I'd ever received. At least the GP per hour here is probably better than pure essence, but I had to bank so frequently because my defensive stats were so low, and getting here took forever as it was on Karamja and you had to go all the way from Port Sarim. The wilderness always fascinated me so much when I was a kid, and one of the money-making methods that I by far did the most of was collecting bones from the Bowen Graveyard. I remember thinking that just free money sitting on the ground, amazing. So there is a spawn of 3 big bones here, and that is what's actually worth a bit of money. Normally killing hill giants, you'd only get one every 30 seconds or 40 seconds, but here there is a spawn of 3 of them, and you can just run back and forth between the spawn. Keep picking them up until you have a full inventory, each big bone being worth back then I think around 300 or 400 GP, so they're worth less today. And I would repeat this for hours and hours and hours on end. Generally I would collect 100 big bones and then run to the Varrock bank and try to sell them off, and that is initially how I managed to afford my runite armor. The rest of the money making methods never really did me much, but this is the one that actually I could cash in on. And it's not great. If we go ahead and look at the big bones, 213 right now, and I have to say, back when I was originally doing this, I don't remember teleporting out. I definitely had the magic level to do it, but I thought it was a waste of money to use runes when you could just walk the entire way. Well, obviously, back then, that is just what I did. I went ahead and collected a full inventory, ran all the way back, deposited it, and then ran all the way back here. It took a long time, especially considering I was always playing on the library computer, and after half an hour I'd have to go log out, so I'd only really get a couple runs in at a time. I distinctly remember getting around 5 to 7.5k per inventory, which was amazing. Like really, you only had to do that 10 to 20 times to get a piece of runite, which felt like a steal back then. Another timeless classic method from RS2 was filling crates with bananas. If you talk to the guy Luthus on Karamja, he would actually pay you 30 coins to fill his crate with 10 bananas. Now I believe this probably was originally put in here to prevent you from getting stuck on Karamja, because you do need 30 coins to leave. But people actually did it as a money-making method, and I did as well. So initially you needed to talk to him to get a job, and then you just ran over to the banana plantation and started picking bananas. For every 10 bananas you picked, you got 30 GP. Even back then that didn't really seem like a lot, but it seemed so easy because it was so close to the crate and you could just run back and forth fairly quickly. Even for my young, underdeveloped brain, I still kind of felt like I was getting taken advantage of, but I do remember doing this for a fair amount of time. I collected maybe 10,000 GP after a couple of weeks. Probably not worth it, but an extremely nostalgic and old school method. I originally spent a lot of time mining. Back when I was free to play, I actually managed to get to 70 mining just by mining coal pretty much exclusively. And one of my favorite mining spots was actually this spot a little bit to the east of the Wizard Tower, or a little west of the Lumbridge Swamp. I spent hours mining coal here, and the whole time I always saw these damn adamant rocks that one day I wanted to mine, and eventually I got 70 mining and was able to mine it. Probably not worth it, as adamantite, while is valuable, takes a long time to mine. Well, that's not a good example of it, but with 70 mining, it takes a long time. But anyway, I finally got it, and I spent a lot of time mining, and it's one of the main ways that I used skilling to actually make money back in 2006. Mithril was worth a lot more back then. It was worth 500 or 600 each, where currently it's only worth 150. It's pretty sad. Coal is actually worth more than Mithril the last time I checked it, which is kind of sad, but we can see how long it takes to actually mine adamant. I've been here for a minute, and I have 70 mining and still no luck. I did eventually go on to mine, I think, at least 100 adamantite ore and sell it all, and I made a fair bit of money doing it, but it was pretty tedious, as these mining spots were very popular back in the day, and you have to fight over adamantite rocks. You were hopping around worlds to try to find it, and it was a pretty slow process. I was so incredibly proud of thinking of this method when I was younger, and it was one of my higher risk methods back in the day. Now, what it involved doing was picking up the Sapphire spawn in the deep wilderness. This was actually still available to free to play, and on this hill there's actually a cut Sapphire, which back in 2005 and 2006 was worth quite a bit more. So essentially just had to run up the hill, grab the Sapphire, run back somewhere safe, and hop worlds, and I would do this for a long time. I believe back then the Sapphire was worth around 900 GP to 1,000, which made it a pretty valuable thing to just be on the ground, even though it was surrounded by spiders and in the deep wilderness. Now, getting here was a chore, as there was no really quicker way to get here. I hadn't figured out the Waka canoe or whatever that was, so I pretty much just ran all the way up here, picked up an inventory over the course of 5 or 10 minutes, and then ran all the way back. It was a time-consuming process, and I definitely died a few times, and these stupid spiders would chase you forever. But there was valuable jewelry just on the ground, and I was going to be picking it up for a long time. I don't know what the GP per hour would be for something like this, probably like 30k, which granted compared to some of the other methods isn't that bad. However, selling these off took a lot longer, because remember, there was no grand exchange. There was just the Varrock area where you'd sell off all your goods, and these did take a bit longer to sell, but overall not that bad. And my last most used newbie method for making money back in RS2 was, of course, chopping yews, and specifically the yew tree to the south of Falador. For whatever reason, that is the one I always went to. I guess it was less busy back in the day. Now, we are in a free-to-play world, and there's only one person there. That's really not that bad. Let's go hop around a little bit. However, I recall back in the day that there were loads of people here, which, I mean, considering that there are tons of bots still, I'm surprised there's no one here. But yeah, you would be competing with tons of people, and chopping yew trees was ridiculously slow. I mean, it is normally, but when there's other people chopping the tree would get chopped very quickly, and you'd have to wait for it to respawn on top of just the general slow chop speed. But I remember being pretty happy with the money I was making from it. The logs were worth around 300 or 400 each, which is pretty similar to what they are now. Oh, actually, they're worth 226, so they're definitely worth more back in RS2. This was an extremely popular method, as while 60 woodcutting is pretty high, woodcutting in general was a much quicker skill when you compare it to mining or anything like that. You could get 60 woodcutting even in free-to-play fairly quickly, as the training methods were actually pretty similar, between members and free-to-play, and U-logs were always in high demand and were needed for higher level training methods and member skills like fletching and fire making and whatnot. Anyway guys, that is it. Those are some of my newbiest money making methods back from RS2. If you have anything you'd like to add to this, there were loads of other things I did, but those are some of the more common ones. Let me know what training methods or money making methods you did back in the day that are totally obsolete now, but give you good memories. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to leave it a like. I always appreciate it, and I will see you next time.